Welcome to Cordkillers Reckoning. The world of entertainment has turned upside down, and we're just trying to find out how to watch what we want, where we want, when we want, whenever we want. Me? Oh, I'm Tom Merritt. Brian, where is the good stuff?
Hello, Tom. I am Brian. I am very pleased to be on this, a very early and very fresh show called Cordkillers Reckoning. Is that what we're doing? We're pretending to be the Hall of Presidents?
Yes. Yes. Some of you may think you just did a show on Wednesday because of your travel schedules and stuff. How much news could there be? You're going to have to stretch. And the answer is you be the judge. I don't know if this is going to sound like stretching or not.
The answer is, look, I'm going to pull back the curtain just a little bit. For those of you long timers out there, and we appreciate it. We definitely noticed over the last week a giant uptick in everybody supporting us at patreon.com/cordkillers. But you long timers, behind the scenes, I want you to know that there's one universal constant, and that is the moment that I call Tom before the show, and I'm like, man, I don't know if there's enough news for us to cover. I'm afraid we won't have enough to fill an hour. And Tom's like, Brian, you always do this. I'm like, I know, but this time I think it's real trouble.
This time it's really going to happen, Tom.
Buckle up for a very long first act as we go on a supply run.
Supply run.
YouTube, Google's video streaming platform.
No, you got to knock that off. Come on.
Okay, fine. YouTube's cracking down on people who pay for YouTube Premium while using a VPN to change their location. Now, many of you are already familiar with the idea that, hey, if I have a Netflix subscription and I live in the UK, but I use a VPN to pretend like I'm in Japan, I can get a whole bunch of shows that aren't available in the UK. That is not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the fact that YouTube Premium is priced differently in different markets. So using a VPN, if it looks like you are in, say, India, you'll pay $1.54 a month for YouTube Premium, versus if it thinks you're in the US, it'll charge you $13.99 a month. YouTube told TechCrunch, in instances where the sign-up country does not match where the user is accessing YouTube, we're asking members to update their billing information to their current country of residence. Although some users posted on Reddit that their subscriptions were canceled without warning. So apparently they went a little farther in some cases. But I think most companies do a little checking to be like, hold on, that's a US credit card. Are you really in India? But I don't know how extensive or how effective that is, because certainly there might be a situation where someone legitimately is like, no, I'm a US resident, US citizen, but I live in India. And so this is where I live. I want the $1.54 a month rate. But YouTube is, what they're doing is saying, you signed up with the $1.54 Indian rate, but all you're accessing comes from Austin, Texas, Brian Brushwood. We're cracking down and making you pay the US rate.
So let's start with a little bit of contextualization. I believe, Tom, that you went from just straight up not being a public figure to becoming a public figure. And as a result, there was never a messy time that you weren't sure what you should and shouldn't say about piracy and whatnot. Brian,
let me stop you right there. I have always been an honest, forthright, and law-abiding citizen of this country, whether I was a public figure or not, and therefore have never admitted too much to engaging in piracy.
Well, okay. In the early days of this podcast, I will admit I was reforming. I was a unrepentant pirate at the time. I was one of those people that shrugged and said, Photoshop is too expensive. What do you expect me to do? I was somebody who was like, well, where else am I going to find Game of Thrones? What, buy HBO? But I got past that, and we decided that the style guide for this show would include always emphasizing the legal ways to do things. And as a result, over the last 10 years, I've done a fair bit of thinking, as I think you probably have as well, about what is the moral case for various things, including VPNs. And I think we would both agree that it is not moral to use a VPN to it might be moral to use a VPN to access content that is not available in your country, especially because there are certain politically censored types of content or something that's outside of your, your I don't know, ethnic background or whatever. It is not moral to use a VPN just to save a couple of bucks in the example that we're talking about now. So far, are we on the same page?
Yeah, and all joking aside, my guidance on how to talk about this stuff is formed less by whether I'm a public figure or not, and more by journalism. In journalism school,
no, I'm a coward. Just make it clear.
In journalism school, you're taught it's not good journalism to tell people it's okay to break the law, and what we're talking about now is not breaking the law, it's breaking terms of service.
Correct.
And actually, journalistically, we had a lot of conversations at CNET about whether it was okay to tell people how to break terms of service. I had a whole back and forth with the moderation crew at CNET about a video I did on making a Hackintosh, where you broke the terms of service of Mac OS, OS 10 at the time, to put it on a non-Apple piece of hardware, which I've been like, that's not illegal for you to do. However, it does break the terms of service, and they don't have to provide support for you if you do it, as long as you paid for the operating system in the first place, et cetera, right? And so this is very similar, which is it's not illegal for you to access YouTube Premium with a VPN, and then YouTube just says, here, your price is $1.54. YouTube says it is against our terms for you to do that, because we have different rates in different markets based on not only the demand in that market, but also how much money people make in that market, and how much it costs for us to operate in that market. If people don't make as much money and couldn't afford our service otherwise, that pushes the price down. If it's not as costly to operate in that market because wages are cheaper or whatever, that also allows us to charge less and still make money. If you pretend you're in India when you're not in India, you're actually skewing that market by causing the company to lose money effectively, because they're delivering the more costly service that you're accessing from the US, but you're only paying the Indian rate.
So that brings up and stands, I don't want to say in conflict, but it stands tangentially opposed to another core belief I have, because I do believe that, yes, you should charge different amounts in different regions because there are different norms, different standards, different middle class amounts of money that are being made.
The price of gas is different in Texas than it is in California for all those same reasons.
Correct. However, another norm that feels like a core to me is VPNs. Everybody rolls their eyes and says, your end-to-end encryption, bro, is totally secure. Nobody's going to steal it, because a lot of people advertise VPNs as being a way to protect yourself from people who want to steal your info or whatever. But the truth is, like, no, they will not know the end-to-end encrypted information that you're saying, but they will now know which bank you go to, or they will now know this what services you're subscribed to and all that. And for those reasons, just as a standard best practices, I try to use a VPN all the time. And yes, it is annoying that I have to solve the world's worst video game where it shows me a cat, a panda, and an automobile and asks me which one has four wheels. But I put up with it because because I do feel like long term just being accustomed to those habits are the best. And yes, I am 100% certain that all things being equal, I bet all of these companies would love to know where I am, how old I am, exactly which one of my family members are using the service, what age we are, what other websites we go to. I'm sure all of that would be very convenient for these people who are not me. But I do it's a little bit, Tom, like why 25 years or 24 years, 23 years after 9/11, I'm still opting out of the body scanners, is because at some point it became a best practice and I still get patted down every time I go through. That's how I feel about VPNs. So now I find myself conflicted on this issue, whether or not like should I be loudly protesting this or kind of okay with it, because I do believe that variable pricing based on local norms of income should be something that should be allowed. And I don't approve of people cheapskating their way into screwing over these content providers, says the content provider. Where are you at on this?
Well, to address your VPN side of that, I feel like that's kind of easy to solve because you can pick where the VPN server is, right? You can have it be in Canada, you can have it be in Singapore, you can have it in the United States. You can have your VPN set to be in the same place you are. Where it becomes a problem is
whether or
where
not I'm obligated to do that.
Okay, well, yeah, stick with me. It becomes a problem with streaming services who say, I can tell you're using a VPN, so I'm not going to let you stream until you stop. That becomes an issue because it's like, well, wait, hold on. I'm using a VPN for privacy and security. I should be able to use it and still use your service. And that brings up all the issues that you mentioned. For YouTube Premium, they're not saying we detected you're using a VPN and we won't let you watch YouTube Premium. And by the way, if you don't know what YouTube Premium is, it just means ad free and a few other perks. But mostly the biggest thing is you get YouTube without ads. So what you can do to make YouTube happy is just have your VPN be the same location as you. It doesn't even have to be exact same city. If you're in the United States, you could set it to California, New York, or whatever, and YouTube will be fine because it charges $13.99 a month across the United States. If you're in the UK, set it to the UK. Canada, set it to Canada. YouTube just doesn't want your location where you access YouTube to constantly be different than the place where you signed up, right? So it's not that they're against you traveling or they're against you using a VPN. They're just saying, don't use a VPN to pretend you're in the cheapest place we offer premium.
Well, and now we get to the question of motivation. And now we Tom, I love the fact that we have the type of show that can just drift all the way into philosophy 101 courses. All of a sudden we're talking like it's the good place here. Like does the motivation matter on this? And if the motivation is just to squeeze a few dollars out of it, should you be upset about it? I don't know. Cordkillers@gmail.com is where I hope many people chime in on this. In fact, I would actually love to know, it is a true fact that when we began this show 14 years ago, I was pirate-ish, and now I am all the way not pirate-ish. I am now chiding my children when hypothetically, let's say one of my daughters simultaneously holds the belief that AIs are stealing content from authors and artists, and yet also holds the belief that she's entitled to steal Photoshop because it's too expensive. And I'm like, hey, I'm not telling you what to do, but hypothetically, I maybe had to pick a lane at some point.
Yeah. At some point, you realize that your brain is very good at justifying what you want to do.
Yes. Yes.
I think there's an argument to be made that ideally, it should cost the same no matter where you are. Like, I get that. I get people saying like, look, if they can offer it for $1.54, YouTube's just a bunch of blinking lights, right? It's not really more expensive. How much support do they really even offer as far as support? Don't they outsource that anyway? You could have the support and the servers be in the cheapest place because it's worldwide. Internet's worldwide. YouTube's available worldwide. Why shouldn't the price be worldwide?
I think this is the part where we'll disagree, because I am of the mind that there is a sweet spot appropriate for a middle-class family of what they can afford to pay for the type of services that Netflix offers. And that sweet spot, it's irrational from my perspective to perceive that it would be the same number all around the world. It will be different in different ones. And their obligation should not be to make everything the same, but instead, like in India, if it was, $15 a month, that would be a fairly high-end luxury. And Netflix shouldn't be a high-end luxury. It should be a working class family.
We're talking about YouTube. So you're saying Netflix, but I know you mean YouTube.
Sorry, any of the paid for services. Yeah. Yes. But thank you for the clarification. But like,
real quick, like, you collect that thought. G. James B says, I have problems with same price, different currency. That complicates things. We're just comparing dollars to dollars.
Right.
It's the equivalent of $1.54 a month in India. But there is an issue. Like, even if you wanted to make it the same price everywhere, what currency do you pick? Because if you pick dollars, then that price will fluctuate as your local currency becomes more valuable and less valuable against the dollar. But if you pick local currencies, then those currencies will match the day you set the price, but slowly drift away from each other as the value of currencies changes against each other. So you either have to make everyone pay in the same currency, which would be totally impractical, or you can't charge everyone the same price anyway.
Well, real quick, and then we'll close the loop on Philosophy 101. One of the best books I ever read was The Rational Optimist by Matt Ridley. And the opening chapter talks about, like, it's very difficult to tally one currency against another at the same time among multiple countries. It's double hard when it comes to various time frames. So instead, he uses the currency of time. Let's assume everybody makes a quote unquote average wage, right? And so and let's pick a commodity. And in his case, he says 1 hour of reading light after dark. And you go back and it's like, in ancient Babylon, thousands of years ago, it would take thousands of hours of average wage labor just to get a whale blubber lamp that would allow you to read at night. And then you get to, I don't know, the 1600s, you have wax candles. The 1800s, you have kerosene. Now you're down to 15 minutes of a person's time. And then you get the light bulb where it's like 3 seconds of a time. And then you get to compact fluorescent bulbs where it's like less than 1 second of the average wage in order to get an hour of reading time after night. And now with LEDs, it's virtually free. Like, I intentionally leave all of my LED lights on all the time because actuarial tables inform me that having lights on statistically decreases the chance of break-ins well enough that for I don't know, less than $1 a month, I can just leave lights on and it will substantially reduce the chance that I'll have a break-in or whatever.
I can't believe you don't care about birds.
Do birds get confused?
I was trying to come up with some possible objection to doing that.
Well, yeah. My point being is that there are, actuarially speaking, sweet spots that things, for lack of a better word, belong. And whether it's YouTube Premium or Netflix or whatever, it seems like for a middle class income in India, that number almost certainly can't be the same number as in the United States. And therefore, I approve of the different numbers, but I don't approve of somebody from the US being such a cheapskate as to use a VPN to get the cheaper price in India.
I think what Brian's trying to say, everyone, is he and I both are really disappointed we didn't think about this before YouTube started cracking down on it.
Yes. And you know what? There's only one solution, Tom. The solution is we have enough money that we all can afford YouTube Premium.
Right.
And one way to cause all three of the staff members of cordkillers.com to have enough money is if people go to patreon.com/cordkillers. Nailed it.
Nailed it. That's the place. Noticed. Yeah. I want to challenge every one of you spending $1.54 a month on YouTube Premium to take,
which by the way is too cheap. It's too cheap.
Take that $12 a month you're saving and just give us one. Just give us one. You can keep the other $11. We're not interested. Just $1 to patreon.com/cordkillers.
Maybe that's our new slogan. Keep 11. Just give us one.
Just give us one.
For every $1 you give us, you're saving $11 on something you would have spent somewhere else.
Look, we could ask you for more, but we're not.
No, I love this because we're good people.
That's right. We're good people. We're moral people.
On the other side of the paywall. In fact, some would say the best content. We get loose. We hang back. We do after talk. Yeah. You get early access to the full experience, and you get exclusive access to what we're actually watching. We've brought back It's Spoilerin' Time. Come join us.
Please do. In patreon.com/cordkillers. Now on to the search party. We mentioned this on Wednesday's show, but we were recording the show before it happened. Kendrick Lamar used Juneteenth holiday as an excuse to hold a concert at the Fabulous Forum in Los Angeles that was quite buzzy. It united rival gangs, rival rappers, West Coast rappers, all together. He performed his diss track against Drake 5 times at the end of the show, and it was all streamed live on Amazon Prime Video and Twitch. An example of how live is really becoming a centerpiece to the strategy of streaming platforms. The way I described it on DTNS earlier today, they have stopped trying to get audience by giving you cheap access. They're like, we need to make money on this now, so we're raising the price. They've stopped trying to get audience by just throwing money at shows and doing crazy expensive shows that you would never get anywhere. They're bringing expenses for shows under wraps, but they are looking at live as a way to get you from one service to theirs, whether that's NFL football or Major League Baseball, or whether that's an awards show that you're really invested in, a comedy special like Netflix did with Chris Rock, or a live concert, a one-of-a-kind live concert where Kendrick Lamar performs his Drake diss track 5 times for the first time on stage. You could watch it on Amazon Prime Video and Twitch. The weird thing, Brian, is supposedly, according to the source, Amazon set streaming records with this concert. Lots of people are talking about it, but I can't find anyone else besides the source and Hypebeast covering the streaming numbers for the concert.
Tom, I have exclusive access to first sources. One, Brent Hughes, our editor here, is a big fan following all of this stuff. And he has patiently explained the beef as it rose on our show, Great Night. But he also broke down for me over 30 minutes exactly why, not 5, Tom, 6 times this song was played. Because you're leaving out the instrumental version that was played as the benediction as everybody left.
I see. Okay, 6. I stand corrected.
Brent explained how the first time it was just the song. The second time it was the song with an emphasis on letting the audience sing a bit more.
A minor.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but this time they knew the game, and so they held the minor even longer because they knew like he was judging him based on that. To be honest, it was like a magic show. It was like a theme park ride. It was like and then came out all of the folks and another version what was interesting is think about how many more people experience this as a streamed event than were there, and how few, with the exception of, I don't know, like Woodstock, the movie, like Woodstock the event apparently was everybody filthy and tired and gross, but Woodstock the movie became the definitive recognition of that event, and this seems to me to be one of those exact same type of events.
It's a cultural moment. You're absolutely right. And it probably was very successful. So why isn't everyone talking about it the way they talked about the numbers around Chris Rock? In fact, there was so much coverage of the numbers around Chris Rock's live streaming special that there were pieces disputing the official numbers around the Chris Rock live special and going to independent analysts to be like, well, we think the number was actually this. Same for Taylor Swift Eras Tour. Why are we not seeing anything about this?
I have a theory, and it boils down to Tupac and Biggie. I think that the Chris Rock thing was a discussion about getting slapped at the Oscars.
Sure.
That's the whole thing. That's fairly tame.
And something that was all over mainstream news when it happened. So it was a follow-up to an already mainstream story.
I think that playing with a rap beef that is of this magnitude maybe has people being just a little bit cautious. Like, on the one hand, they would love to blow this up, make a lot of noise about it, but last time that happened, 2 people got killed, Tom. I would imagine that is a disincentive for many people who would like to make a lot more money on this.
So that leaves me with a question. Why is the source saying that Amazon Music told them that this live stream set records when the source is closer to the community you're talking about than others? And I don't believe they're lying. So Amazon Music is out there on a press release somewhere saying it set records for streaming numbers. Why is nobody else picking it up?
Maybe not a press release, maybe a sources familiar with the matter kind of situation.
No. The source website said Amazon Music said not people familiar with the matter, nothing like that. It was we were told by Amazon Music. So whether Amazon Music sent them a press release or whether some other third party, Justin was speculating on GDI that maybe the promoter sent the press release quoting Amazon Music saying that, and Amazon didn't send it themselves, but it was an official number out there.
Well, I mean, there's press releases and then there's press releases. There's press releases where you just put it out and that's the truth. It's on the record. Can we go have lunch? And then there's press releases where it's like, oh wait, have you not heard this? Let me tell another person. And maybe this is just the former and not the latter.
Yeah, I don't know. Something seems odd to me about this. If it were out there on PR Newswire or Business Wire and just sitting there and people weren't picking it up, I'd have one opinion. The fact that, like, maybe it's because it was a holiday. Maybe it's as simple as like a bunch of people were off that day in the US and so they didn't write about it.
If I were to guess, I would say that the consumer, the most likely consumer of this, maybe isn't thrilled in the numbers game. I've had all the Biggie Smalls, Tupac stories that I ever need for the rest of my life. And if this was going to become another version of that, I would actively ask people to stop talking about it if I was having a beer at a bar and they brought it up. So
Kendrick Lamar, I don't think doesn't want people to know his concert live stream was successful.
Yeah, but also Kendrick Lamar, of the two characters, is, he's more the poet and Drake is more portrayed as the sellout. And so I don't know. Cordkillers@gmail.com. I actually, if you're into this beef and you want to, Tom smells a conspiracy here, and he's hashtag not fooled. Tell us what you think.
I don't even know if it's a conspiracy. I just think it's odd, and I want to figure out why. Like, what am I missing? Maybe I'm just missing something. Like, well, obviously it's not there, but I don't know. Meanwhile, live streaming music is a differentiator for platforms. Let's go to another example of this. Ryuichi Sakamoto is no longer with us, but Ryoichi Sakamoto Opus is out as a posthumous documentary and will come to the Criterion broadcast live via its streaming service. So they're launching it as a live event on Sunday, June 30th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern.
I was a bit curious as to what a live documentary would look like outside of like, he's waking up. He's waking up right now. He's going to work. Look at him. He's driving a car.
Well, also, he's no longer alive, so it would be really hard for
He's laying in the coffin. Look at him, just laying there in the coffin.
Probably not going to happen. But yeah, they are trying to basically have a live premiere. And I know a little bit about Sakamoto, just mostly through his collaboration with August D on the D-Day album, and the sort of short documentary that Jungi did with about going to visit him and getting his approval and consultation and everything. He was a beloved composer by many in many genres, hugely considered a national treasure, I would imagine, would be the words we'd use in English to describe him in Japan. And so there's going to be a lot of people invested in watching this. So smart for Criterion to not just be like, hey, put it up, but to make an event around it. We know you're excited about this, and we can all watch it together at 5 p.m. Pacific, Sunday, June 30th. And then the following the premiere, the concert doc will stream exclusively on Criterion Channel starting July 1st. So that's the other interesting thing is you watch it premiere live, and then it's not available till the next day. So if you want to rewatch it, you have to wait till the next day.
Just for context, tell me a bit about the type of music that he did, because it sounds like you're familiar with it.
Yeah, he's a kind of, I guess you would say, I don't know if you'd say classical. He's a composer, like a pianist
kind of guy.
Yeah. He was also an actor and a record producer, but yeah, pianist would be how I would describe it. And again, I'm not, if there's a better word to describe it, let me know, cordkillers@gmail.com. But, he worked with Laurie Anderson. He worked with Thomas Dolby. I'm trying to find, American people that the majority American audience we have would.
I guess the big thing is it's not like I should know him for Japanese movies, period, end of sentence, but more just the art scene writ large. Like
probably the thing you'd be most familiar with is The Last Emperor. He did the score for that and won an Academy Award for it.
So I guess a contemporary would be what's his name? Oingo Boingo, Danny Elfman. Yeah. Somebody who's able to bridge.
That's not bad. Yeah, because he did scores for a lot of other movies like The Revenant, Little Buddha, The Sheltering Sky, and others. So just genius musician basically. And then finally, Inside Out 2 posted a record Tuesday. It was posting all kinds of like amazing box office receipts over its initial weekend, but its Tuesday last week brought in 29 million. That's 205 million US, 380 million worldwide total at this point.
Tom, every time we have one of these stories, I care about one thing, and I know you know what it is. How soon is it back? The summer draft, the winter draft, Cordkillers, great night. How soon do we get back to making our fantasy football league a reality?
Yeah. If there's anyone out there at IMDb who would like to serve as our guide, let us know because we need a little kick to get this going. Crazy numbers for Inside Out 2. I've seen a lot of people raving about it online. When Mad Max Furiosa came out, a lot of people said, ooh, maybe the theater revival isn't as strong as we thought. This makes me think maybe people just didn't like Mad Max Furiosa as much as people expected.
I'll double dip uh, on the buried treasure thing. I saw Inside Out 2 kind of on a lark because like it was one of those like it starts in 5 minutes. Hey, who in the family wants to go? My 11-year-old was like, that's fine. I'll flat out say, number one, Inside Out 2, Tom, was better than it needed to be. I went in not expecting much more than let's milk this cow one more time. But Inside Out 2 is flat out better than Inside Out 1, if for no other reason than because, like, in the first 7 minutes, they got you all caught up. They're like, you get it. You get it. These are the emotions. These are the kids. These are the players. We don't have to take a whole first act to explain it to you. And now let's get interesting with a truly interesting time in any human's development. The introduction of puberty, where the main four emotions get temporarily supplanted by anxiety, ennui, envy, and embarrassment, and they take the stage for a little bit. To be honest, it was great. I burst out laughing multiple times. It was really fun to watch it with my 11-year-old daughter, who is about to have that red light start flashing. But we enjoyed it quite a bit.
Oh, that's fantastic. And this is not me saying Furiosa was not a good movie, but I didn't hear as much raving about Furiosa. So it's not which one is better. It's clearly people enjoyed Inside Out 2 and raved about it more.
I think a fair way to put it is that Furiosa was less good than Mad Max Fury Road. And
versus,
Inside Out 2 was better than the original. I think I'll stand behind those.
All right, let's get to your buried treasure.
Most people want to know why they suddenly got rich.
Buried treasure.
I'll spill first. I went back and watched Kick-Ass. You want me to talk about that or The Boys?
No, talk about Kick-Ass first, because then we can both team up on The Boys.
Well, number one, it's really, really fun to see kind of the spiritual progenitor before The Boys, of that vibe of what if in the real world superheroes were a thing and so on. Kick-Ass holds up. Now, I don't know how much of it is the fact that the real star of the show is Hit Girl, aged 11. See the previous segment for context. But man, there's a couple of things that are aged out, like the use of MySpace or whatever. But but it's very clear that in context, they're very prescient about, like, superheroes paying attention to their brand value and team ups and so on. It's great. It's great. And that little kid playing the 11-year-old Hit Girl is incredible. It was a lot of fun. I watched it with the wife, and then it was one of those, I rented it. And so I just sort of like, knock, knock. And my 16-year-old daughter, Josie, I'm like, hey, while it's still rented, I think you're going to want to watch Kick-Ass. And the next day she was like, yep, it was pretty great.
That's great. How old is Kick-Ass at this point?
2010 is when it came out.
So 14 years ish.
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive. Not a lot of movies hold up 14 years later. So good for you, Kick-Ass. Speaking of superheroes teaming up and knowing their brand value, that's one of the major themes of The Boys, which you also watched, as did I, at least episode 1. Let's maybe we talk about it a little more on After Talk, but top line, how did you feel going back into that world?
I think it was Justin Robert Young who phrased it perfectly. What's the old line about sex? Even when it's bad, it's good. Like, The Boys. Man, if you're in the mood for The Boys, they are still delivering The Boys. Like 10 minutes in, and we have Homelander what it looks like him in a majestic pose with the sun behind him turns out to be him taking a leak in the urinal, and then he reaches down and pulls up a gray pubic hair, and it's like, we're at this part of this story. It's great. Kamiko is a real treat. Like, the dynamic with her and Frenchie is a lot of fun. It's great. It's The Boys. If you want The Boys, guess what? There's more of The Boys.
So here's an interesting family dynamic on our end. We are very busy accommodating a 9-week-old puppy to the house, which is very young and very time intensive. We don't have a lot of brain power sometimes to watch a complex story. We've been doing a lot of putting on lo-fi beats or music shows or things that don't require full attention. However, we got a window of opportunity where the dog was asleep, and Eileen said, well, should we watch something else? We've got House of the Dragon and The Boys. And I said, you pick. And she picked The Boys.
Look, the Boys has never been faulted for being overly complicated. Yeah, like
there is that.
It's very unsubtle, and
but it can be very intense,
much.
Right? Because of the exploding heads and things that happen from time to time. All I'll say is the summary of our experience is watching it and having Eileen say, like, why is Homelander like that? And I'm like, yes, that's what the show is about. That is exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yes, that was the pitch, sweetheart.
Yep, exactly.
It also, I mean, depending on how much you want to map onto the current political environment, it is kind of fun to see like the anti-hero establishment be all wearing yellow, which in real life politics is coded as third-party libertarian, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's very unsubtle, and is it fun? Is it fun?
Yeah. Also, Doctor Who season, whatever, the new season with Ncuti Gatwa came to a conclusion. I enjoyed the whole season. I thought that as inconsistent as the plot was in the finale, what was that? I heard like a huge long exhale.
Hopefully not from me, because
no,
I was literally holding my breath based on the rest of your sentence.
Maybe it was all in my head. Anyway, inconsistent plot line. Some things didn't get tied up, but I was still on the edge of my seat to find out like what the mystery was with Ruby Sunday. We actually don't find out all the things that happen with her, but that's typical Russell T Davies. So what I would say is if you are a fan of the style of storytelling that Russell T Davies did with Doctor Who, with David Tennant and Christopher Eccleston, you're going to enjoy this season with Ncuti Gatwa if you haven't watched it already. And it's definitely setting us up for a really interesting next season. Like as he did with Rose Tyler, he had Bad Wolf. We have something else being set up with Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor. And there's a bunch of nice little nods to past Doctor Who, something that Russell T Davies didn't really let himself do a lot in the original series because he was trying to reestablish it and not be constantly nostalgic, but he's been able to pepper in some interesting things and even add some mystery to it.
So Russell T Davies, he did the Christopher Eccleston kind of what is thought of as a reboot, although on a long enough timeline. I mean,
it's more restart than reboot because they didn't start over again. It's still consistent with the earlier episodes.
Did he do any of the other two Doctors?
He did all of David Tennant.
Okay.
That's why I said if you like Chris Eccleston or David Tennant's Doctors, then if you like the storytelling under those two Doctors, then you're going to like this.
I can't speak to the David Tennant era, but the Christopher Eccleston stuff, it was very clear that Russell T Davies was going for what about a war veteran, a damaged person after an incredible war. And I didn't get much of that with the David Tennant stuff, but likewise, like Breaking Form seems to be one of the games he likes to play.
Ncuti Gatwa was more about family dynamic, right? Like what if you are separated from your family? What if you it's the last of the Time Lord stuff, but it's more about a lot of allusions to like, didn't you have a granddaughter? Which season 1 of Doctor Who, he had a granddaughter and then never really mentioned her again after that. They brought that in, and it's sort of like, yeah, but I haven't talked to her in centuries kind of situation. So it's that kind of loner mentality versus the war veteran mentality that he had at the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Amos wanted to pass along that he has been watching NASCAR in a very cord cuttery way. Amos, explain.
So this last week's race was on USA Network. I don't have USA Network on any of the streaming services that I am afforded. So I just went to NASCAR.com and had one window open. I've got 2 screens, and each screen was split in half. One window had the current leaderboard on it. The next one had the overhead view that NASCAR provides. And then the other 2 screens were drivers that I was monitoring, usually the ones in the battle, to see like from their point of view, from the car's point of view, as they were fighting each other around the track. You don't get the commentary that, let's face it, is sometimes really, really boring and old, but you do get to listen to the radio from the driver and their spotters and stuff like that. And I thought that was really fun, really interesting. And that's how I've been watching all season.
It sounds like you're describing a sort of, I don't know, make your own salad or build your own sundae kind of situation where it's like you have all the ingredients and you're getting the story. It's just not the tightly produced, made by somebody else story that normally people expect.
Yep. And another part of it is you can still listen to NPR or PRN radio, which is the radio broadcast for the race. So if you do want to get those other stories and hear more context, you can still get that. And that's commercial free and free to listen to on the website. Like you can experience all of NASCAR on the website for free. And I just had 4 windows open and I was loving it. I was enjoying the entire race without all the crappy commentary and without commercials.
Yeah. You know, what's funny, Amos, and I'll kick this out to the panel. When I glanced at it on my phone, I wondered very briefly if you were actually watching a video game engine recreating all of the stats in real time. And it makes me wonder if obviously that was not the case this time, but checks watch. I mean, how long until that'll be a way to enjoy all of this? Just get the raw data feed of who's in what place and then have a game engine show it.
Yeah, because all the telemetry is on all the cars. That data is out there. They have all of it as far as how many Gs are pulling, what position they're in, where they are on the track. Yeah. You could really do a full VR system to watch the race from literally any point of view. Oh, that's
so cool. Yeah.
If you wanted to gather all that data, if you could find a publicly available version of that. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was in the rain. The race got rain delayed and came back an hour later, which gave me a perfect chance to go have some lunch and come back. And I was like, oh, the race is back on, and click right back into it. It was fun.
An intermission, so to speak.
Yeah, a weather intermission.
Oh, G. James B has an excellent comment in the chat. What if they also added ghost cars from previous races, something that we're familiar with in the video game sphere?
Yeah. That is actually something they've been doing on the television broadcasts for a few years now, is showing like this is the path they took last year. Now that they got the new service, they're taking this line through the corner, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it'd be interesting if you could do that yourself, or have a ghost of the last couple laps of that particular driver you're chasing, or if you're chasing 2, see how they're adjusting their lines to each other to block and try to catch speed and stuff like that. So I like NASCAR not for the redneck stories. I like NASCAR for the 700 horsepower cars going around in circles, and the strategy of it. Like, do we take gas now? Or do we take tires? All that kind of stuff. That's what I really enjoy NASCAR for. And I got all of it that I needed from this week's race just from some free open websites. NASCAR.com gave me everything I needed.
Look at that. Fantastic. Producer Amos, everyone. Thank you.
Huzzah.
And I also watched If with my daughter and her friends.
Oh, how was that?
It was amazing. So good. Oh, got me in the feels, had me tearing up in the theater. It was awesome.
Cool. Well, if you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Real quickly, this show is brought to you by whoever had an ad inserted. We don't know. We don't pay attention to that. Or if you're a patron, you can just get an ad-free service. But we do other things that we'd like to tell you about, which is one of mine, Freetom Newsletter, freetomnewsletter.com. I know a lot of you don't want to see pictures of a cute puppy, right? That's fine. You don't have to subscribe to Freetom Newsletter.
They're notoriously difficult to look at, Tom. I mean,
yeah, no, but maybe
big
a couple
eyes,
of you,
they're puffy
maybe a
bellies.
couple of you can put up with seeing a picture of an 8 or 9 week old puppy, and learning how to
Giving
sit.
Tom Merrick kisses.
Yeah, kid licking my face and all that. I'm not saying that Freetom Newsletter is only pictures of Sev the puppy, but last week it was pretty much only pictures of Sev the puppy. So, top 5 books behind me on this shelf as I'm streaming right now. That was the other thing in the newsletter. Of all the books that you can see here, what are my 5 favorites? That's in that newsletter as well. So go check it out. freetomnewsletter.com.
Yeah, Tom's in prison. Let's let him free.
Free me. Now,
Send a scanning to avoid.
Scanning the horizon!
Apple TV added a feature that's present in a lot of other sports streaming apps. Let you catch up on a game in progress when you join it late. This is for Major League Soccer games on Apple TV Plus. You can choose catch up and you get a bunch of highlight clips on what has happened so far before joining the live action. Apple calls their version of this Key Plays. It's available now if you're using an iPhone, an iPad, a Mac, or Apple TV. It's in beta and will come to all users, Windows, Android, etc., with the full release of iOS 17.6 and equivalents.
Bless your hearts, Apple. You just can't resist. Like, heaven forbid you should call them clips or instant replays or highlights. By all means, invent the new thing, Key Plays.
I feel like they should have called it I'm Late.
Yeah. You know what occurred to us? We had the idea for the first time everywhere. So we created a revolutionary new thing. It's called catch up. Whoopsie.
We call it, and we think you're going to love it. You know what else you might love? Popcorn from Netflix. Remember we talked about AMC theaters doing this, selling the popcorn they sell in the theater? Well, Netflix is selling the popcorn they don't sell I guess they have like 2 theaters, so maybe they do sell it there, but Popcorn Indiana is making 2 flavors for Netflix and selling them under the Netflix brand: Cult Classic Cheddar Kettle and Swoon-Worthy Cinnamon Kettle. You can find it at Walmart stores nationwide and some other retailers for $4.49 a bag.
Okay, I'm actually going to come to the defense on this one because normally longtime listeners know that I advise brands to not, when you think of Netflix, you don't think of culinary, excellent popcorn or whatever. So why squeeze that out of it? However, somewhere out there is an independent popcorn boutique shop, and they're going to sell more if the word Netflix is on it.
Yep. It's called Popcorn Indiana. That's the boutique shop in this case. Yeah,
exactly. Right. So it seems like a fine partnership. For example, there's now I can't remember the name and I'll feel bad. There's a wonderful independent cinema in the Bay Area that you could get like 10 different types of popcorn, and much like the Alamo Drafthouse, they put a lot of thought into the presentation. One is themed blaxploitation movie, another one is themed like this and that, and the other, jalapeno on this one, garlic on this one, or whatever. So it's like I'm going to give them a pass. They get a Brian Branding pass.
And as weird as it may be for some of you to imagine, there are Netflix fans. There are folks who would go to all the Netflix pop-ups. They're going to be excited to go to those Netflix department store installations we talked about. And those are the kind of people who are like, ooh, Netflix popcorn. How perfect to watch our Netflix on our Netflix night. The Netflix popcorn. Some people are going to like this. Lionsgate has struck a deal to add Movie Sphere, Her Sphere, Ebony TV, and the single series comedy channel Are We There Yet? And Anger Management to DirecTV. these are, if you're like, wait, what are these networks? They're all free ad-supported streaming channels, fast channels. So Movie Sphere is premium movies. Her Sphere is female-driven movies. Ebony TV, Black Film and Culture. And the single series channels are just all episodes of Are We There Yet? Or Anger Management. And I find it fascinating to see fast channels showing up on cable, which is what this is. This is DirecTV. Now it's DirecTV streaming, but it's also DirecTV satellite. If you're a DirecTV satellite subscriber, you're going to get an entire channel of Are We There Yet? On your as part of your subscription.
I don't have a strong gut reaction on this one either way, Tom. I'd be curious to get your take. Like, on the one hand, I think what we're seeing is the inevitable direction of things, where it's like once content becomes free, bundled, by the truckload and just chucked into, themed channels that you can slap ads on. I don't see any way to stop that. But would I advise that? Like, 5 years ago, Brian would be very against it because you're going to saturate the market. But also, I mean, what are you going to stop that dam from bursting or not?
Well, what you're talking about is just Pluto and Zumo and all of that, and there are hundreds and hundreds of free ad-supported channels. This is, you pay for DirecTV, and now the free channels that are normally free are now part of the service that you pay for. It's more choice.
Like how could the average person who's 20 years older than me tell the difference? Like,
I don't know that they would. Yeah. They would just think, oh, this is kind of a weird channel, huh? And I've been trying to figure out what the inevitable fate of cable television is. Does it become a platform? Does it get merged into a box? I think the companies that operate cable services are wondering what the inevitable fate of those services is. Maybe it's this. Maybe they just become a host of a bunch of channels.
We're watching the heat death of the universe, entropy run amok, where everything spreads out so wide that suddenly nothing matters.
Maybe DirecTV at some point is just Pluto, but it's just another Pluto. Like,
I mean, it's not that far from it outside of infrastructure, because Pluto, of course, requires you to have some other way to get the internet.
Comcast has invested in MoviePass. Who thought we would have that headline?
When I watched that MoviePass documentary, I'm actually for this. Hooray, MoviePass! You're great.
Forecast Labs is the subsidiary of Comcast that will drive new customer acquisition for MoviePass through TV advertising. So it's basically a partnership, but it is a little bit of Comcast going like, if this MoviePass thing does end up going somewhere, maybe we'd buy it someday. Let's get a little stake.
I'd be curious to, neither of us have time. Maybe at some point we can program an AI bot to find out on our behalf. But it's like, I feel like I remember us generally being warm to the idea of MoviePass until we watched them descend into insanity of like giving everyone credit cards and telling people, go watch movies on our dime, please.
Yeah. If you've got thoughts on that, cordkillers@gmail.com. Let's move on to the chatter.
You've got mail.
We got an email from BioCow. Hi, BioCow. You're in the chat room too. I wanted to humbly submit a few shows as possible contenders for the Thole Experience. That is the show that comes out Wednesday or earlier if you're a patron, where we look at 4 episodes to get the flavor of a television series. We look at the first, the ultimate, the lowest, and the last episode. BioCow would like to submit New Adventures of Old Christine, a mid-2000s sitcom starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Clark Gregg. Small Wonder, heard Brian mention it, wanted him to know he has seen. Beavis and Butthead, come on, 3 ingenious guys watching 2 idiots watch videos. Hi, Amos, gotta do it. Turbo Teen, Brian, you are still seen. Twin Peaks, of course. Hi, Tom. And these are some shows I've been wanting to rewatch but kept putting off, but maybe watching them in full rather than in full would be better. Pushing Daisies, Dead Like Me, 6 Feet Under. well, don't want to make your full list too full, so I'll stop there. These are great, BioCow, especially like the Pushing Daisies, Dead Like Me, and 6 Feet Under. Those are perfect candidates, I think.
Pushing Daisies, I was familiar with at the time. Dead Like Me, I watched the first season of, but maybe there was only one season. 6 Feet Under, wasn't that Ryan Wilson's debut before The Office?
Oh, was it? I watched season 1 of 6 Feet Under and I don't remember.
Well, I thought so. New Adventures of Old Christine was one of those I meant to get around to it. Small Wonder, wow, deep cut. That was one that went straight to syndication in the early 80s. Wow, that would be interesting to visit. Beavis and Butthead would be interesting because I don't think I'm violating any contracts to say twice, Tom, they've reached out to purchase non-exclusive licenses to Modern Rogue content because now they're riffing on YouTube videos, and we've seen some of our friends show up here and there. So I have no idea whether or not any of my content will show up on there, but that would be deliciously fun.
Yeah.
Turbo Teen, weird pick, that and Dungeons and Dragons and the Pac-Man show defined 1982 for me. And then, of course, Twin Peaks. I think we already visited that one, right?
Well, we did The Return, right? We didn't do. I did a whole series with Ron Richards.
I think we watched the whole season, and I barely. Really...
Yeah, but I don't think we did the original. I think we just did The Return, maybe. I don't remember. I was doing that series with Ron Richards where we watched all of the original and then watched The Return as well. So yeah. I'm blending the two because you and Ron are pretty much indistinguishable.
We're the same person.
Yeah, exactly. Milton wrote in and wanted to give Jericho the full treatment. He says it ended in 2008, but my wife and I still make fun of it. Gentle suggestion from a long-term super cheapskate patron. Thank you, Milton. And then Lin Fung suggested this may be more for Tom, but are you aware of the BTS pop-up in West Hollywood? It is in fact a BTS Minions pop-up experience. I am not only aware of it, but I am aware of the BTS references in the trailers for the, Despicable Me 3 that this is part of. And the rumor on the street is that Pharrell and RM from BTS collabed on a song, and Pharrell always does songs in Despicable Me movies. So maybe it'll be in this.
Dude, shouts out to everybody who is sending us emails. The more emails we get, the more interesting the show tends to be. So hit us up at cordkillers@gmail.com. We always read everything, and we try to put as many as are relevant in every single episode.
And Lynn, if you go to the pop-up, because I'm not sure if we're going to make it over there, let me know what you get. Folks, our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We are live at twitch.tv/Night Attack, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. I reckon we'll talk to you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.